clarify that if you did not or have access to Microsoft Teams, that is because of one reason and one reason, two reasons and two reasons only. One is either your actual club, when they completed SOAR, did not list you as an officer to be a representative on behalf of the club. So you need to communicate with that individual who did complete SOAR to figure out whether or not they list you. And if they did, perfect. Then that means that it goes back to number two, which is a lot of people are having difficulties logging into Microsoft Teams at this moment just because NAU is going through a transition. They're deleting Skype from our system and now moving forward with um, just Microsoft Teams. So there might be a little hiccups here and there. So if you log into Microsoft Teams and you don't see, and you know for a fact that you're a Microsoft Teams representative for your club and we added you, you should have access to it. But if you don't see it, then you will need to communicate directly with ITS and address that concern. And that could just be easily by either giving them a call or actually submitting a ticket. So that way they could reach out to you directly and address the issue. So
Thank
Microsoft is
you.
going to be a really great tool for you all to communicate directly, just to make sure. I also wanted to, before I move to the next session, I wanted to provide you all with a clarification of the attendance and quiz. So I put that in the chat for you all to read, so that way it's a little bit more clear. And then I'm going to share my screen so I could move on to the next session.
Thanks for that detail, Salvador.
Of course. Perfect. All right. Oopsies. Okay. Student org manual. This is going to be amazing. And I hope you all take notes because the quiz has a lot of questions about the manual. So, with that being said, this is technically your contract. And I really want to emphasize this is your contract between your specific organization along with NEU and our office. This document serves significantly with all of our specific policies and requirements, not just by our office specifically, but also through NEU. And every single time when you all reach out to us directly, we are going to be referring to the manual. This manual has most likely 99% of your answers to your questions. If for some reason it doesn't have it, then maybe we missed and then we might need to update it. But trust me, there's most likely going to be a lot of information that we'll be able to answer there. With that being said, there's a lot of context we're just going to go over in a little bit greater detail because we want to make sure that all of us are on the same page. Keep in mind that we have student org basics, information about transitions, which is essential for all of you since this past year when you all completed a re-registration requirement. Many of you were struggling with accounts, with information about TrueBlue Connects, with access to TrueBlue Connects, on how to move forward with the actual club. So please keep that in mind as we talk about these sections. And obviously, we're going to talk about something brand new that was executed and is going to be implemented starting today on expectations and regulations when it comes to being a club on org. So it's gonna be a process about sanctions when things happen or policies are being broken. We'll talk about financial items and we'll provide some examples as well too. So with that being said, I'm gonna share my. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for this one, and I'm gonna share the org manual. If you haven't done so already, please just go to club resources in your browser as we are talking about this and just click on hyperlink it either and save it in your notes or either bookmark it in your browser. So if I scroll all the way down and click on the very first tab, the actual manual is already live here. So this is one of the ways that you could access it, but at the same time, oops, I don't think I'm stop sharing. Share. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
We see the website right now, not the manual.
No, that's perfect. That's what I wanted. So if I scroll all the way down and just click on the very first option of the accordion, you'll be able to actually see the manual hyperlinked. And throughout our website, if you look at the right or at the very bottom, you will be able to access the manual at any time. So if you scroll all the way down, you'll see, yes, I want to start with, it is a very lengthy manual, and I'm so sorry about this. But again, like the slide said, please don't be afraid to Control F. literally you could just control F and either type a key term or a keyword that you actually are looking for, like for example, travel, or for example, funding, or for example, sanctions, right? So that specific aspect of control F could help you navigate this entire manual. And I don't know, maybe you have a lot of free time during the summer. I mean, we are starting school in the next 3 weeks, but maybe you want a fun read and just read this in your free time. So if you scroll all the way down, you'll see all the sections, but I'm gonna precisely talk a little bit more about some particular ones. Um, Starting here, one sec. Perfect. So as a reminder, you all register in April, re-register in April as a student organization, which is what's amazing. And congratulations to all of you. We know that that was a specific deadline, and we opened it up again for those clubs who were not able to complete this requirement due to specific situations, like the club was inactive for a whole year, or the actual officer who was in charge of the club left and we didn't know, we never re-register, and so on and so forth. So that was something that came up. So that's what we were being flexible. It is very vital for you all to know moving forward that SOAR is always going to be open in April. That gives you all an opportunity, one, to be able to actually know that that's going to be a requirement always going to be need to be met by April, or by the end of by the beginning of May. So we send a lot of announcements, requirements, updates through social media and email about SOAR. So that's something that we need to make sure that you all continue to keep in mind, that SOAR is always going to open in April and it's always going to be due in May. Things have changed recently with the requirements as we continue to listen to our leadership team here at NAU. So with that being said, we continue to have the same regulations, but we have made a very two specific changes happening with the requirements of being a club. So keep this in mind. So one of them is making sure that all officers have a 2.0 or 2.0 GPA or higher. That is a requirement that kind of changed. Before, it was a 2.25 GPA. So now students who have a 2.0 GPA or higher are able to become an officer. This provides a lot of flexibility to individuals who are able to continue moving forward with expanding their club and adding more officer positions. Of course, this is the case that if for some reason the individual has a 1.99 GPA or 1.89 GPA, that is obviously restricted and they will not be able to become an officer. This will be something that we need to make sure that the individual who would like to have or hold office in an organization, that they're actually focusing primarily on their academics, and then they'll be able, once their GPA continues to increase, then they will be able to take on additional leadership roles, like obviously becoming an officer. The club requirement continues to have 5 members minimum. We try our best to make sure we audit every single club as much as possible throughout the semesters to make sure that every club has at least 5 members. Please keep in mind that this is a requirement and this is not something that we can waive. We do provide extensions moving forward when it comes to we're trying to recruit and so on and so forth, and we'll do our best to make sure that we provide you with a deadline or a time frame for you to be able to recruit more members to at least reach to 5 members. We've done this with individuals such as Greek chapters who would like to increase their actual chapter and have more members, and we have specified created specific plans to help them out. So that's just an example. Another big change that is happening that we'll announce a little bit more in detail later on in the semester is the advisor requirement. Remember that your advisor needs to be an advisor that is full-time and active here at NAU, and it could be a faculty or staff member. That is a requirement that's going to add another layer of requirement, but will be shared with you all soon once we solidify that policy. But keep in mind that that has to be a, again, full-time or active advisor here at NAU. There's been a lot of individuals who are trying to add a second advisor, which you are able to do so, right? The second advisor could be another faculty or a staff advisor at NAU that is either part-time or even still full-time, or an advisor who is either not really affiliated with NAU. You're more than welcome to do so too. But keep in mind that if you are adding more advisors, you need to let us know. One, because we want to make sure that they're being added to a Microsoft Teams group, and they're also aware of all the requirements and information they're being shared with, and they're aware of all that. And two, we could update our tracker, and you all can update your TrueBlue Connects info page to make sure, which we'll talk about a little bit more in detail. So that way, that all that information is actually clear and ready to go. So just keep that in mind about the new upcoming requirement for advisors. But as of now, please remember that your advisor has to be a full-time and active faculty or staff member here at NAU. And if you're trying to add a secondary advisor, you need to email student orgs at NAU. The president needs to email it, not the advisor who wants to be the advisor. The president or an officer from the club needs to email student orgs at NAU.edu requesting to have a secondary advisor. And then we'll go from there. So far, so good? Perfect. All right, removing a club and officer. This has been a little interesting this past academic year with me and Meredith. We love helping you all with consultations, but for some specific reason, last spring it has been a year of a consultations related to club member and officer removal, which is unfortunate to hear, but you know, it happens. We need to be clear. So keeping in mind that all of your constitutions, whether you have updated it since the last time that you completed your SOAR or not, you need to make sure that you still have your club member and officer removal process. You're welcome to have one process for both groups. And a lot of clubs, mostly 75% of you or so, have two different processes. Whatever you prefer, whatever your club works best with, but you have to have this club member / officer removal process. This process has to be embedded in your constitution, which means that if you're having an issue, right, with a specific member or an officer, you have to go in detail with this specific requirement or process that you put in your constitution. Of course, this past semester, we asked you to add a new statement into your removal process, which was based on the severity of the issue. The removal process can be waived and just go directly to removal. And obviously that's on a case-by-case basis, depending what the actual sanction or action of that member or officer did for you all to make that decision. But keep in mind that you cannot just assume that you're going to be removing this officer without actually following the process that you specify there. If you're having issues with the removal of a member or an officer, me and Meredith, we're more than welcome to talk to you all about this in a one-on-one setting and so on. Technically, what the actual scale is when you're having this issue, you need to make sure you address it, right? Address it directly with an individual. Then you will need to, that's basic. Then you need to make sure that you follow the process, right? If for some reason issues continue to happen and this specific member is not either feeling the or approving the removal process, that's when you need to loop in your advisor, right? That's when your advisor will step in and guide on this process of removal. If the advisor is not able to address this concern or you're still having issues with this officer or member, then that's when me or Meredith step in and we'll be able to provide more guidance to the advisor and the actual club itself to be able to remove those individuals. So just keeping that in mind. And again, you could just email studentorgs@nau.edu for consultation requests. And many of you utilize our example of removal process, so it's pretty simple. But again, you all can create your own as long as it's ethical and make sure that you meet our guidelines. We have different types of organizations, which we don't have to go about because you all label yourselves as one or multiple of these during your re-registration. So we are good on that. If you're a part of a club and you want to create a new club because you just love to be involved, that's amazing. Happy for you. You're more than welcome to. You just have to make sure that your new club does not equal or mirror the same outcomes or goals that a current club is doing. So for example, if I am the nursing club, right? I'm involved in the nursing club, but then I want to start my new club that is also focusing on nursing and mirrors the same outcomes, then your new club will be denied. So you need to make sure that if you're planning to have a new club, you need to make sure that they are very different from each other or any other club that might kind of be related to it. Scrolling down. We talked about SOAR. All this SOAR continues to, again, that deadline is not going to change, but SOAR continues to change in terms of what you need to add to your constitution. So keep in mind that we're going to communicate that moving forward. Remember that if you want to make sure that you created not a club, but a new chapter in sorority and fraternity life, that's a whole different process. We need to communicate you directly with the FSL team, like Elise and Meredith and Elise and Marissa. Meredith, no, not her, but Marissa and Elise, so that way they could provide you with the actual justifications, and process to actually start a chapter here. For many of you, you all believe or have this idea that you are a sports club. Keep in mind that you are not a sports club until you are approved to be a sports club. And this is a whole different process that is overseen by Campus Rec / our amazing manager, Joseph Alexis. He is the one that oversees the club. So when you are submitting an actual club re-registration or a new club that has some type of physical activity or meets its expectations, we're more than welcome to approve it if it meets our expectations and guidelines and policies, but that does not guarantee that you're a sports club. You have to submit a whole different application, and obviously we'll help you through the process once that step continues. So here are a bunch of privileges we'll talk about later in greater detail. So now this is something that now moving forward, we're gonna implement, which is I hope something that we don't have to talk about as much during the academic semester. Leadership and engagement regulations and expectations for student organizations. There's been a lot of issues happening recently when it comes to clubs going a little bit out of lines when it comes to policies and requirements. Hosting meetings without approval, selling items such as food or any items that was not approved or have broken policy with any purchasing and so on and so forth. This is not okay, one, because it shows that you're not meeting the policies that NAU has on behalf of the club, and then two, you're doing actions that does not line up with the Office of Leadership and Engagement. So with that being said, our leadership team has requested us to create a regulations and expectations process, providing you all with flexibility and teaching moments, but at the same time some sanctions to make sure that you are meeting our guidelines and policies. Also to make sure that you're not getting in trouble, right? You want to make sure that you follow the policy so that way in terms of liability or safety or just in general contracting issues, nothing is happening on behind the scenes that is not approved by our office that will make you in trouble, right? So with that being said, this is our process. And moving forward, we're gonna implement the warning, the trial period, and the frozen status. So with that being said, if every club who, for some reason, let's say, for example, I am the coffee club. Oh, I love coffee. I am the coffee club. So I am going to host an event, right? Well, I didn't submit an event in TrueBlue Connects, and I just hosted it last Tuesday. LNE team finds out that you hosted an event without our approval and you were selling coffee and something like that, right? Or something as simple as just not submitting your event in TrueBlue Connects. We find out that we will provide you with a specific warning message, meaning that you are technically getting a freebie of a specific policy that you have broken. So the email could say something like, "Hello, Coffee Club. We were aware that you hosted an event without our approval. Please remember that you have to submit your events in TrueBlue Connects 10 days prior to the actual day of the event, and it needs to be approved by us. You broke policy of blank." So that serves as your warning, right? If for some reason my club, the Coffee Club, continues to host another event without a TrueBlue Connects approved by LNE or campus events, that it goes to the actual trial period. And that is basically you only get one try per rule to of waiver. So you only get one warning per rule breakage. So I hosted it once, got my warning, but then I hosted it again. Now you move to trial period, and that means that we will provide you with a trial period, meaning that you will not be able to host meetings or events for this 2-period cycle or this entire month, right? To make sure that you understand these policies are policies that you have to meet. So for a month, the email could say, "Hey, Coffee Club, we were aware of this incident happening again. You already received your warning. With that being said, you have continued to broken this policy. Then you're moving forward, your club is not able to meet from September 12th to October 12th. So all meetings and events are canceled. That is the sanction that we're giving you for trial period. And obviously the durations vary depending on the severity of the rule that was broken. So keep that in mind. Then, where is it now? Then that happens. if for some reason, which I really, really hope, we're all hoping you don't do this, but if for some reason, after your trial period, you continue to not follow any policy or leadership and engagement policies, then that's when it comes to interim frozen. That's when you become frozen for a specific reason of rule or policy breakage. And you will then need to actually meet with our specific office and talk about this specific situation. So we will provide you with an actual sanction. Keep in mind that this interim frozen is provided to your club. So similar to the trial, you would just probably not be able to, you would be frozen for either 2 weeks to a maximum of a whole academic year. So our goal is to make sure that you're not frozen for the entire academic year, but our goal is to make sure that you understand the policies that you have to follow as a club. You're not just representing NAU, but you're representing your club in different entities. And we want to make sure you are held to high standards. If interim frozen due to SOAR or interim frozen due to training are not student code of conduct statuses. And do keep in mind that if interim frozen goes to the log, which is our last stage, this is something that maybe an organization did something extremely bad or broke so many policies that then we go into the log status, and that's when we looped in SRNR, Student Rights and Responsibilities office. They will be able to look into this case and provide us with guidance on how to create the specific sanction based on whatever policy was broken. Do you know that we do hold the right of sending your case, particularly depending on the severity, directly to students' rights and responsibilities to make sure they address any concerns that our office might not be able to address? So just keeping that in mind. There are certain sections, I believe the trial or the interim frozen, I can't remember because I'm racing through it, but where you are able to reconsider reconsideration process where this is the process where you're like, I don't think this is fair. I think we got misunderstood. Here's the process of how to provide a reconciliation process. And obviously we'll provide that, but do know that any type of sanction provided by the student code of conduct is not negotiable in terms of reconsideration. But I hope that any club that's attending or any future clubs that are signing up do not need or follow this process, because we will all follow all the regulations. And that's what I mean by saying that the student org manual is going to be your primary method of communication and your contract between the university, our office, and your club. Okay. Are we doing on time? Perfect. Truebill Connects, we'll talk about it next after we finish this section. Look at this amazing team showing off their rockets. Here's another example of student organizations officers as you continue to move forward and figure out and hopefully expand your club or organization. I hope that you continue to look at these and see what specific rules as you're expanding might be feasible or might be benefiting our specific community to actually enroll these or implement these rules in our chapter or organization. Something that we continue to ask you all to do, and very few of you do, I hope the number continues to expand, is creating officer transition binders. It doesn't even have to be a binder. It doesn't have to be a physical binder if you don't need to. We need to make sure that you are continuing to communicate with each other, specifically the new chapters or new officers / leaders who are taking over a club. If you're the president who's graduating in the spring, it is important for you to have all this information documented in some safe space, so that way and share information that we're sharing with you all now, so that way the new president is able to executely and effectively manage your actual club without any hesitation or issues. Here's an example of what this binder or information should include, or virtual folder should include. But please keep in mind that is very vital. A lot of information that you are asking, for example, tax IDs, we don't keep records of that. We don't manage financial accounts for clubs. So things like that are very vital for you all to actually keep in records and just visible for student leaders within your organization. Where we talk about student organization advisors, so we don't have to worry about that in primary, but do keep in mind that your advisors are required to complete specific trainings required by the university and our office. And one of those trainings is happening tomorrow. So your advisors are going to be attending this exact meeting, a very condensed 4-hour training so they are aware of all of our requirements and what you all have been talked to about, so that way they're aware and provide support as needed when possible. Talk about the qualifications, which we were talked about that they might change slightly, but for now, we don't have to worry about that. And the liability aspect. Keeping in mind that your advisors are supporting and guide you, and they're not technically linked in terms of liability. However, if your advisor does know that your club is doing something that is breaking any policy or regulations, that makes them, and they don't say or report it to anyone, like our office, they are becoming eligible for any specific issues or outcomes that could happen when a rule or policy is being broken. Wow, what a beautiful view. Resources for student organizations, keeping in mind that we have mailboxes available for you all with ASNEU. Shout out to them. So please see us as a resource. Club storage, if you have space, if you don't have space and you have a bunch of stuff for your club, please utilize this. This is a great resource for you all. And club storage is literally inside the ASNEU office. Please follow the instructions on how to submit an application by clicking on this website. We talk about a little bit more about websites and email. Club headquarters, which is amazing space for you all to get all the resources. Yes, maybe you want all of a sprinkling paper, fancy tape, fancy scissors, and maybe you want that for your club when it comes to recruiting or marketing. Well, maybe you should go first to club headquarters before you purchase all of that and utilize the resources. And then whatever they might not have, we might have it here downstairs at the Get Involved Lounge. So please use your resources before you start buying a lot of other stuff that maybe we already have it here. And it's free for clubs and orgs, just an FYI. Lumberjack Club Fair. We probably broke a record so far at this moment. We have, I think, 180 clubs who are registered. I think for both clubs fairs happening on the 23rd and 25th of August, which is super exciting. The 23rd of August club fair is going to be very interesting and very different, like Michelle mentioned. So you don't want to miss that one, just an FYI. And just service hours, so keeping that in mind. Oh, the record is 200. Never mind, JK. Wow, look at that. I need to close it because we were limited to 200. All right, Speak. We'll talk a little bit about Speak today, later in the training. Here are additional university policies that I want to make sure that you all continue to read. Student code of conduct, hazing policy, which we'll talk a little bit more later on in day number 2. Organizational conduct, institutional excuses, first week, finals week policy. Remember that any club and org who wants to, they're not able to host any type of events or meetings during the first week of school or during finals week. So keep that in mind of each semester. The weapons policy and all that great stuff. Event planning, we're going to talk about a little bit more about TrueBlue Connects and event planning. We're going to talk about TrueBlue Connects a little bit more in detail today, but we're going to talk about event planning and submitting your event request on Wednesday. So more information to come on that, but keep this in mind as we move forward, that the instructions or process is also located in your manual. Facilities are available for you all when it comes to campus reg. So there's a bunch of information here that you just want to keep in mind. And the fees. Scrolling down, marketing, publicity, tabling, flyers, all this great ways for you to actually continue to advertise your specific community / chapter / org. Free resources again, Pepsi banners. If you want to market your, this is a service that is very, very helpful and useful, but not utilized for many of you all. So I will continue to encourage you all to utilize Pepsi banners as possible. But more information you can find here. We're going to talk about any logos moving forward because the policy also changed, and we'll talk about that later with the amazing Mackenzie from marketing, NEU marketing, on Wednesday. Financial considerations, we talked about this. A club, which kind of we encourage you all if possible, not a requirement on our end, but something that we continue to struggle with when it comes to clubs is one, a lot of clubs either do volunteer opportunities or that are paid, or do some type of work like concession stands or work with other entities that needs to, when it comes to paying you all, you don't know exactly where to pay them to. We cannot take money on behalf of the club, right? You all need to actually be in charge and oversee your specific requirements when it comes to banking accounts. you're more than welcome to create your own bank account to whatever bank you are. Please keep in mind that every bank is different. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Arizona One. We have a list of friendly banks that have worked with previous clubs before. So you're more and the manual. So you're more than welcome to partner with those banks, but do know that some banks might charge a fee to create a bank account. Other banks might not charge a fee for a club to pay it to have a bank account. So just keep that in mind. Keep track of your bank statements and please, 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 we're begging you, please keep track of your federal tax ID number. We don't have that. We really don't. We don't keep it. And we will not keep it on your behalf. So please, please, please make sure you keep that. If for some reason you do have a bank account and you lost your federal tax ID number, you will need to just contact the IRS and they will be able to provide you with some guidance and the process on how to retrieve that. So keep that in mind. We have a bunch of student organization funding options like STAC, which we'll go over later, like Sodexo, which we'll go over later. We're missing so many. ASNAU and so on and so forth, which is all again is in club resources on our website and here. So just keep that in mind that there's options. Many options might apply to your events, other options might not. So we could definitely have alternatives like fundraising events that we could talk about during consultations if you need support or guidance on how to do that, like fundraising, bake sales. Another thing that I wanted to touch on very quickly is when it comes to fundraising, a lot of clubs and chapters do lots of fundraising, which is amazing. That's how you all earn a lot of money, right? But something to keep in mind is things that you cannot do with fundraising. And I want to make sure that I highlight that you're not able to do raffles. You could do giveaways, right? But you cannot do raffles. And that is because a raffle is basically a chance of winning. So if you want to do a giveaway, you have to provide the opportunity of every single individual to have the equal opportunity to win whatever you're trying to give away, whether it's a backpack, whether it's movie tickets, right? So keeping that in mind. And date auctions and casing booths are not allowed. That's something that came up last year significantly a lot. So again, here's the justifications. Please read a little bit more in detail so they can provide you with more information on that. We'll talk about student organization travel because that was another issue that happened and we faced a lot of hiccups based on clubs. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And just talking about risk management and crisis response information. These are all information that are helpful for you all to just know and be aware of when it comes to maybe concerns or situations that you might face as a club, which we hope you don't, but just an FYI. And last but not least, we have a bunch of documents attached, which are called the appendix, at the very end of the actual manual, which is the sample constitution that you're more than welcome to use our example to revamp your constitution or make it more, I don't know, nicer, I guess. Our constitution example is nice, but you're more than welcome to create your constitution as long as it meets our requirements. There's another bank information, like I mentioned, all these banks are friendly banks here that are close to NAU and have worked with NAU previously, that we haven't heard clubs or orgs have any type of issues with creating a bank account. So just something to consider if you're applying to create one. Information on how to actually how to initiate a federal tax ID number request, right? And you should be able to also, by clicking on the website, you should be able to have the option on how to retrieve your previous federal tax ID if you forgot it. And here are some other resources for you all to just keep in mind when it comes to how to lead your club. That's a lot. And I'm so sorry that I have to go through it, but I wanted to just double check that you all know, one, where to access it, and two, what the actual content of the manual is.